I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A. David, what do we got today?
All right. This first one is from Annie Kabee, 199. And the question is, I have listened to so many interviews in the past, it is now no problem to accept we have huge, elusive, bipedal primates hiding out in our forests. What has really stretched my mind are the accounts of habituation. The story of the Carter family in Tennessee and the young man who cared for a young Bigfoot who'd been orphaned by a hunter being two examples. I was wondering what your thoughts were on some of these kinds of stories.
Forrest, I'm going to defer to you on that one.
Well, I don't think it's a good idea to habituate any type of primate. And of course it happens all the time. We see, on, the internet all these stories about what happens with, people habituating, macaques and such. And then, and I see where it could possibly be a problem with Bigfoot, just like it is with, the macaques and chimps and such. Even orangutans, a lot of that happens in Indonesia and the areas where the orangutans are. You end up getting them to the point that they're too reliant on our taking care of them and our providing food for them. And we've also heard the horror stories of what happens when they don't get fed after they have been fed and habituated. So I don't think that it's a good idea. I don't.
And Carol, yeah, exactly. Carol, I know I could tell she's thinking.
Yeah, she agrees.
I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I was feeding them and didn't realize it because I was going to make a compost, just like I did in when I lived in Kansas City. I thought, well, I'll take my apple cores and stuff down here, and I never thought anything of it until I began to see really big handprints in it, where they were digging through the dirt to get it. And, one of my friends said that I'd let her in on it. She said, well, why would something that big bother to get your little apple peels at? Well, I didn't say it made sense, but, they're constantly looking for food.
Well, it's what's easy. They don't have to work for it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an easy meal. You know that when you go there, you're probably going to come away with something.
Exactly.
And I 100%, I couldn't agree more with what Forrest is saying. It's a bad idea. Don't start it.
Okay, David, what do we got next?
All right, this next one is from Matthew Bradley, 8892, and he has two questions. The first question is, could some of the long, drawn-out moans be that of a female Bigfoot giving birth or grieving the passing of a loved one?
I suppose it's possible, but it happens so often, I kind of think it's not that. What do you guys think?
I think it's more along the lines of them just locating each other and communicating.
I agree with him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have never heard, and I've seen plenty of pictures of other primates giving birth, and I've never heard them making any kind of noise.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, David, what do we have next?
All right. Second question from Matthew is, we sometimes refer to Bigfoot speech as fast talk. Should we start referring to the reports of Bigfoot seemingly gliding and name it speed walking or glide walking?
Well, I've never heard the term on vocals, so I don't know where that came from.
I haven't heard that either.
Forrest, what do you think?
Well, I'm
there it is.
There it is.
Like I said, folks, spicy, real spicy.
What was that first?
Yeah, and I don't mean to. I don't want this person thinking that I'm laughing at them, because that's not the case.
No, not at all.
No. I was laughing at the terminology is what I was laughing at, not the question. So please don't take offense. There's no such thing as a stupid question, but, when I talked to you, Will, once before when I told you that I actually moved my bed away from the window when, we had a spring and it was, the weather was pleasant outside and I had my windows open, and I actually heard that gibberish that it sounded like I had a bunch of little Chinamen, out in my cedar trees, talking back and forth to each other. And that was when I was like, no, I'm not sleeping with my bed over here. I'm moving it. So, I didn't need any more, incentive than that. So, and then you hear about the samurai, people referring to the samurai, sounds, and that they hear, that's what they hear sometimes. So, it's kind of, it's gibberish that they make, and I won't go as far to call it a language, but, all primates have sounds and such that they make that mean something to them. It might mean nothing to us, but,
absolutely.
People that study them all the time understand the vocalizations that they make and know what they mean. And sometimes they never know what they mean. So I think that we're kind of in the same situation with Bigfoot.
I think there's people out there that just, they want to make themselves sound important by labeling something, coming up with some name when there really isn't anything at this point to that. So, David,
Will, I wanted to ask you,
have
you ever heard any kind of communication, or vocalizations like that sounded like communications while you were?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard them vocalize where they scream, and then another one, half a mile or so away answers. But, as far as, talking, no, we did have two of them. I think they were, I don't know if they were adults or juveniles, we couldn't tell, that were above us, a number of years ago by Mount Rainier. And, one of them distinctly sounded like a chimpanzee hooting. And didn't sound very happy, and the other one was making kind of a gibberish chatter. They were both making very completely different noises, and I don't think they were communicating with each other. I think it was directed towards us. I don't think they were happy with us being there.
Well, I differ, but if you heard what I had heard, maybe you'd think the same thing I do. I'm convinced that they have a type of language, because I heard a male and a female going back and forth, and it had all the earmarks of language to me. And I'm certain it was them. And I've heard that more than once. I just speak as I find, but to me it had the earmarks of language.
Okay. David, what do we have next?
All right, this next question is from Rob Sword Dragger 8477, and he says, this is a frostbite question. The woolly mammoth had actual antifreeze qualities to their blood. Couldn't a Sasquatch?
I suppose. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Forrest?
Well, I hadn't heard that woolly mammoths had antifreeze qualities to the blood.
I mean, the cold doesn't seem to affect the Sasquatch. So.
Well, no. I mean, they're also hair covered. So,
That's true.
And we've got macaques that live in Japan in snowy mountainous regions, and they're perfectly satisfied living there. And we hear about the Yeti that is in the Himalayas, and, and that's certainly a cold area. So, I mean, we have all sorts of primates that are adapted to certain types of climates. So, I think that those that live in Alaska are probably going to exhibit different physical qualities for adaptations rather than the ones that live down here with me that have to live in 100-degree weather.
Yeah, exactly.
There's and all primates seem to be hair covered except us, the naked apes. So, and we do have, and let me clarify that. We do have hair all over our body. We just don't have hair all over us that's 4 inches long. At least most of us don't. So anyway.
I'm waiting for Tracy to jump in there.
Yes, yeah. Here I come. I'm diving in right now.
Are you one of those that has 4-inch hair all over your body?
Not a real hairy man, but I'll tell you what. No, I look at it like this. There are bears. There are all kind of mammals that live in Alaska and thrive. You know, I know for a fact from going from the southeastern United States over to the deserts of Iraq that it takes time to acclimatize. But once you acclimatize, it's not so. I don't see it being so far stretched to say that if they were born and raised, any animal, mammal especially, but you know, primates, if you're born and raised in a certain climate, your body will adapt to that. And so I don't think, I mean, I believe if you took a Sasquatch out of Alaska and brought him down here to Alabama, he'd probably die within 3 days. Same way the other way around. If you took one from down here and put it up there in Alaska, he'd freeze to death the first night.
Yeah, they've had many generations to adapt.
Many generations. And they I believe, like you've talked about before, Will, I believe they migrate. I don't think they, now down here in the South, I don't see them migrating very far because there's really nowhere to go except to a hotter place. Mm-hmm. But in the Pacific Northwest and in Alaska and, you know, in the Rockies, you know, I could see them, you know, hey, it's way too cold here. Let's move where it's warmer.
It's actually like more food driven. Movement.
Yes. So that's my thought on that. I'll shut up now.
Okay, David, what's up next?
All right, this one we have is from John Van 6082, and he also has 2 questions. First one being, when these beings throw rocks, do they use an overhand motion, an underarm motion, or a sidearm motion? I have never heard an answer, though there are eyewitnesses that have seen them throwing objects.
Well, I think we'd have to defer to the witnesses that see them.
I have actually read of all 3 cases. One report I read, this guy said he threw it like a baseball pitcher would. Another report I read, it said he pitched it like a softball pitcher would, and another one said he just kind of just threw it up in the air, you know, in an overhand motion, so like a football.
I think if you looked at other primates, you'd see what they do, and it's probably very similar. It just depends on the individual.
That and it probably depends too on what they're trying to do, as far as trying to get your attention, or they trying to scare you away, or they trying to hurt you. So yeah.
Miss Torres, let me ask you a question.
Well, can I answer that question first?
Yes, ma'am. Oh. Please don't beat me. I promise to be a good boy.
I promise I won't come to Alabama to beat you. Anyway, I have seen chimpanzees and macaques and gorillas use all 3 of the above and when they do things. I think it just happens to be whatever, you know. How many times have you pitched a rock at something and you may have yourself used different types of motions to throw something? It just happens to be whatever you do at the time, and I don't think it's anything specific to the primate species or anything like that. I think it's just what happens to be done at the time. So there'll be sometimes that they may throw overhand. There may be sometimes that they throw it like a baseball. It depending on how far they want it to go, I would think. Yeah.
That kind of goes along with what I wanted to ask you, and you kind of answered my question. But in primates, okay, in humans, I know that men and women have a different shoulder structure and throwing motion. Women can't quite throw a certain way that men can. And is that typical of all primates or just humans?
Shoulder structure between men and women is pretty much the same. It's just men
exactly
are stronger.
It's just exactly the same. There's absolutely no difference in our shoulder structure. You're going to exhibit different type of muscle attachments because men develop more muscle than a woman does. But I have a daughter that played softball, and I beg to differ. That woman, she would tell you to this day that she can throw as well as any man. Now, no, she's not playing professional baseball, but I'm here to tell you, it's just and how you develop. But the male's muscle attachment would show to be different on skeletal features because of men develop more muscles because of testosterone. Women only have a certain level of testosterone in their body, and it doesn't allow for that type of muscular development. So that would be where the difference is. You have women out there that yes, it's just the fact that men are stronger than women for the most part. I will clarify that for the most part. So and there's probably going to be some woman that is going to differ with me, but
Miss Pearce, I'm going to have to differ with you because I actually saw a documentary on this about how the men's shoulder motion, how when we throw things, is a lot different in the way a woman throws things. Trying to imitate the same motion.
Tracy, it would have to do. You have to listen to what I just got through telling you. The skeletal features in the shoulder is not going to be any different in a man and a woman. It has to do with the muscle attachments, and men develop more muscles than a woman does because of the testosterone in your body.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm asking you. Is it the same way with primates?
Yeah.
Because
it's the same way in any species. And why do you have
in some animals the female is bigger than the male?
Okay, guys. I think we're getting off target here.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that.
So the answer is all three.
I still want to talk to Miss Forrest about that, though.
There you go.
Okay, you guys talk off the air. Let's go, David, to the next question.
All right, this next one is his second question. Is it just the males that have the horrible smell, or both sexes? And what about juveniles?
Both. It's probably glandular. I don't know about juvies. They probably have it too. What do you think, Forrest?
Well, all primates have a smell. If we didn't use deodorant, we would have a smell. The only people, let me clarify that. The only people that really do not have to use deodorant, and this is a fact, are Asians with certain genetic types, because they don't have odor problems like we do. And other races, let me clarify that. Other races, your Caucasian, Mongoloid, Negroid, do not have the same type of that we smell. And it seems that for some reason Asians have, a lot of the Asians have developed, they don't. So they don't have to use deodorant. A lot of them don't have to. So it is a glandular thing, and you're going to find that the males are going to exhibit more of a smell than the females. The only time you're going to have females really secreting a lot of odor is during their estrus period.
You can meet some of the guys I work with.
A sexual attractant.
I would like to add too, like the ones that were peeing on the window of the car and letting it drain down over the car handles. I don't believe that was a female that could aimed at up there that high. I don't think that was a female for a minute. I think it was a male doing that. So I think that males tend to mark their territory that way more than females. As far as the muscle bulk question, on my mind is always a little bit behind. But the female that I saw here, she is built like a tank. So she's very, very muscular. So as far as the juveniles, I have seen 2 particular juveniles more than any other I've ever had an experience with. I've heard more than 2. I've heard them at night, playing at night. I've heard them, they sound like children, laughing and talking. You can't make out a language, but they sound just like a playground of children. If they blindfolded you and put you out there in the dark and you heard that, you would say, well, that's somebody's kids, out playing. But as far as the odor, I do think that the males leave the odor more. And I don't know, Forrest may have a thought on this angle. I'm thinking that the females are more discriminate about their the tracks that they lay, the places that they go. I think that their number one priority is protecting the little young ones, and I think that they try not to leave the odor tracks as much. The males are they're marking. This is my thought now. They're marking those areas for the whole troop or whatever you want to call their family.
Well, no, there's a difference. There's a difference between marking with urine and marking with their scent glands.
Yes, I know that, but I think that the males are more into marking in either way, because I think that the females, my experience is the females have been more cautious, more tucked away, more out of sight, because they're keeping the young ones safe. And I've never had a situation where I came out to the car and it smelled like them and a female was hanging around. It was always the male. So, but anyway.
Okay, David, what do we have next?
All right, let's see. This one is from Eric Green, 2751. And he says, with them being so close to humans and the great apes, would they be able to have a lot of the same diseases? And I assume he means diseases that we get.
I think it's possible. What do you guys think?
I think most definitely, because it's proven that we can transfer diseases to other primates, and other primates can transfer diseases to us. And oftentimes, like herpes B complex, they have your macaques. Some macaques carry it, not all of them. If a human catches that, it can kill us. They have it in their system, and it doesn't have any effect on them whatsoever. And they have since found out that chimpanzees are actually immune to AIDS, which proves that they actually probably were exposed to a type of HIV a long time ago and have built up immunity to it. So, you have to be exposed to something to be able to build up an immunity to it. And if you're living in the jungle, you're not going to necessarily be exposed to the same diseases that we are. So, and that's very oftentimes is what happened to a lot of these, primates, if they pick up diseases that we have. That's why they use chimpanzees and macaques and not so much gorillas, but it does happen sometimes in these labs. That's why they're used to test diseases on, because they are so closely related to us. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all.
What do you think about diseases like smallpox and diseases that are not always fatal, but mostly fatal to humans? I mean, do you think, between the species, could we give a chimpanzee smallpox if he was exposed to it?
That's what I'm saying. Is there is a crossover there? It's called a zoonotic cross. They can catch stuff from us, and we can catch stuff from them. And I don't know specifically what they could catch from us, and specifically what I just named two particular types of diseases that I do know of that can cross the barriers between our species and other species of monkeys and apes. So yes, it happens, and unfortunately, that's why we use macaques and chimpanzees in these labs that I do not approve of to test diseases that we get on them.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, but that really doesn't answer my question. I mean, theoretically, now there's a primate that lives here in the United States, undiscovered primate. What do you think the chances of him being susceptible to diseases like smallpox or even something like rabies? I mean, what?
Tracy, stop right there. Rabies, any mammal can catch rabies. The only one that I know of that's immune to it is a possum. And that has to be because of the fact that their temperature, body temperature, is too low for the virus to exist in their system. Any mammal can catch rabies if they're exposed to it. So I've been exposed to it. I've had rabies shots. So not from a cat, but from a skunk. So any of us can catch rabies. And I think I go back to the same thing I said before. If Bigfoot is a primate, so therefore it would be susceptible and could be susceptible to any type of viruses or diseases that we're susceptible to. I mean, the only way we could prove it or disprove it would be have to gather up a Bigfoot and then give him smallpox.
Right.
So
Okay.
I don't know any other way to answer that.
That's a good answer. We got time for one more question, guys, before we wrap.
All right, this next one is also from Eric Green, 2751, and he says, Mr. Jevning, has there been anyone that has tried to trap a Sasquatch?
There was, the only time that I know of was, I think his name was Ron Olson in Southern Oregon back in the 70s. His trap is still there. Of course, Sasquatch is smart enough not to go into a trap like that. And I think it would be very dangerous to try to trap one because you're not just messing with you're messing with the whole group.
Yeah, those idiots on mountain monsters do it all the time.
That's always trapping them or trying to.
Come on, guys, one at a time. David, what was that?
I was saying those idiots on mountain monsters try to catch them all the time.
Well,
there we go. That's what I was saying.
they get peed in their face too, so which cracked me up. Yeah, no, I think it would be a very foolhardy venture to try to do something like that.
Do you think there would be a possible way to trap one though? I mean,
I don't think so. No,
I don't either. I just don't see it happening. But it's really fun to watch.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we're out of time. We're going to continue going through the comments on YouTube, folks, for your questions, and we're going to start addressing comments and things too. So bear with us on that. Carol, thanks for sitting in with us this week. And
thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Join us next week for the Q&A, folks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.